opportunity to address the board. My name is Ralph Kisberg of Williamsport. In preparation, I attended both days of the Technical Assistance Board meetings in State College back in August. There I listened to and talked with a number of small conventional drillers. They were upset about the cost of some of the proposed amendments. I was empathetic at first, but in studying the regulatory analysis form completed by the DEP, it is clear that the estimated figures are not unfair or uncompetitive expenses given the volume and value of the hydrocarbons produced in the Commonwealth currently and for the foreseeable future. I respectfully suggest you study that well-crafted form thoroughly. Yes, some small conventional well operators will go out of business, but if they cannot afford to comply with the very limited number of proposed regulations DEP has deemed applicable to them, the harsh reality is that their resource production in the current era is insignificant. Whereas their industry's history and legacy of environmental degradation unfortunately is not. As the DEP phrased it, the costs of reasonable environmental protective measures are relatively small compared to the costs associated with cleaning up a release of pollutional substance into the environment and restoring the impacted area. As far as the unconventional operators go, you've heard from 3 representatives how they feel about these regulations, and you're going to hear a lot more. Let's take Mr. Augustine's testimony. He talked about 200,000 new jobs created by his industry. This figure is such a manipulation of statistics that it is nothing but an outright lie. And I urge you to look at the work of Dr. Timothy Kelsey at Penn State Workforce Development, talk to people at the PA Budget and Policy Center, and get a realistic figure of just how many direct jobs that industry creates. It's about 22,000, I believe, and that includes the unconventional well, the conventional well industry also. This lie came about from an industry-paid study that was called the Emerging Giant that was done by 2 Penn State professors back in the very beginning of this, and it has been a very damaging document, not just in the Commonwealth, but nationwide and even around the world. We have to get this lie wiped out. These people, I mean, it is unbelievable. You heard today, for instance, let's talk about Section 7851(2) regarding the restoration and replacement of contaminated water supplies. Now that is a proposed standard all Pennsylvanians can be proud of and support. And those who are paying attention appreciate the DEP. I'll quote it. The quality of a restored or replaced water supply will be deemed adequate if it meets the standards established under the Pennsylvania Safe Drinking Water Act or is comparable to the quality of the water supply before it was affected by the operator if that water supply exceeded those standards. We hope you can hold firm on those to those standards in the onslaught that you're going to get from the industry against it. Lori Bard did a good job talking about Section 7852A, abandoned orphan well identification. That's an example of a very good start on rules to address the problem that we've seen in this area in Forks, twice actually. In Forks Township in Sullivan County, the 7,000-foot abandoned well from the 1950s had to be plugged in 2012 after DEP detected combustible gas at the surface of the ground above the B.J. Borchardt well and in a number of homes in a stream in the vicinity. I won't go into it, its details are in my testimony. In Section 7859C G2,
1 minute.
the draft regulations appear to require 1 monitoring well hydraulically upgraded from centralized impoundment and a minimum of 3 monitoring wells downgraded. The catastrophic failure of the impoundment liner on the Phoenix Resources property on the landfill in Duncan Township in Tioga County provides a fine example of why what was said just before me about liners is ridiculous. Monitoring wells are necessary and can provide alerts to toxic infiltration of groundwater from underneath liners. These liners do leak, and the 75 to 100 holes discovered upon draining of the liner on the Phoenix Pad S impoundment also shows that, due to the allowable definition of fresh water to contain pollutional substances, these ponds built to lesser construction standards should too require the minimum monitoring wells describe for the higher standard of construction, centralized impoundments. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, audience